on my attention. My countrymen, they love their fiction. Words upon now, it's made with good intentions.
Welcome to 1 to 200, the Media and Politics podcast. It's another week of current events. We've got an entire roundtable. I think you need 4 for a roundtable. 3 at a roundtable feels lacking somehow. Although last week's return wasn't too bad. If you haven't listened to that already, we've had a few episodes out this week. We've had current events. We've had one about trans healthcare. And we are currently trying to upload an episode about AI that is just not wanting to upload. Draw your own conclusions, folks. I'm joined by my co-hosts. Ginny, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good start. Simone, how are you? How's sunny Hamilton?
I'm holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity right now, Kyle.
Someone has
Get
to.
out. Leave my podcast.
And I'm glad that this is the Media and Politics podcast. I was worried that this was just the media podcast or just the politics podcast.
No.
But it is the two flavors that taste great together at last. And that's what we really love about 1 of 200, I think.
Yeah. There are actually 200 different flavors. But that's the
Wow.
secret. And we're joined by Pmax. How you doing?
Well, mostly good. School year's coming to a close, so I can feel the sanity returning to my body like a migratory bird.
Which kind?
I don't know, like a really fucked up albatross, maybe.
It's been a long journey, huh?
It's been a long journey. Albatross with an eye patch.
Oh yeah. Pirate
Irish
albatross. Yeah, okay. Wonderful. Lots of stuff happening this week in the world. Things aren't great out there, but we struggle onwards. We're going to continue with the same kind of format, and I hope everyone is prepared for that. What are some things that people hate? What are some hateful things out there? What have we been seeing that burns brightly within us, and encourages us to tear it all down?
Well, I'll jump in first because this is something that I think you hate as well, Kyle.
Oh,
But Boris
special treat.
Johnson just sort of saying the quiet part loud on Ukraine being a proxy war.
oh no, I love this.
Boris Johnson, Russian propagandist. Well, I've been paid by Putin. I know him very well. He's a great man.
I just love that he gets to be the guy who sank probably one of the most promising peace arrangements between Ukraine and Russia, if I'm recalling correctly.
You're correct.
And now he's turning around and just I guess this is the thing I love. He's just turning around and pulling back the curtain. I don't know, we stay in a problematic fave.
He's not. So for people who haven't seen it, I think he's on the Telegram podcast or a Telegram interview, and he says, "Let's not kid ourselves. We're fighting a proxy war," and just straight out, just delivers that line. But he's not doing the Russian propaganda line. I want to be very clear about this. This is not exactly the same line that had us all marched through the streets and have the bell of shame rung. He then goes on to say, and as they're fighting a proxy war on our behalf, it's time we give them the weapons they need to win. We've been making them fight with one hand tied behind their back. So he's not only admitting that this is a proxy war between NATO, the US, and Russia, but that he wants to escalate it.
Well, and also admitting that while he was having stewardship of this proxy war, they were under-equipping Ukraine when they still had manpower.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure at this point it becomes a lot more viable to argue that it's not only the Russian invasion that is murdering tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians. It is also the proxy war powers that are putting them in this situation. What is it? What was the line that has just been trotted out again and again? Fight to the last Ukrainian.
Yeah. It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good.
How do you think it's
They're
going
saying that it was me who scuppered the peace deal, but I'm what the kids like to call a yandere. If I can't have Ukraine, nobody can have Ukraine. She's my girl.
Horrible. How do we think it's going to develop under Trump? People are saying Trump is pro-Putin. He's going to make Ukraine go away. What do we think?
Well, I think
Trump just likes a man on horseback. He's not pro-Putin.
I think for Trump, maybe this understanding will be broken this term. Rather famously, lots of people predicted things about Trump last term, and most of them were wrong. But he seems to really like being seen as the deal maker. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him trying to make some deal, probably a really bad deal for Ukrainians, but one that stops the war. Just so he can sort of do his thing of walking around being like, I would try and do an impression, but I'd feel ashamed with Simone here.
I've been banned. Ginny said that it's possession.
Yeah, it is like the spirit of Trump enters your body, and I don't know what to do when that happens, generally.
Oh, a likely place for Trump to enter.
Well, okay, that's the podcast. We're wrapping up.
A likely place.
No, I
No,
agree.
I mean-
We've memory hold it, but like he almost ended the Korean War.
Right? Because he wanted to be seen as doing a deal. And, it was
And
like,
then both the
I don't see the
neocons, like the traditional Republican neocons, and the liberals were like, no, he's like cozying up to evil Kim Jong-un and stuff like that. And he's like, all right, fine. Like, fucking I won't be out of the deal, you know, because yeah, he's got a deluded sense of self, but certainly he tries to do it. You're totally right, you know. And it was kind of funny because people were showing pictures of him with Kim Jong-un, like, wow, he's cozying up to the evil dictator. It's like, how do you think these things happen? How do you think that the Good Friday Agreement was made, if not like sitting around the table? Just astonishing stuff. But they know, they just don't want it to happen, because how else do you sell weapons from like Lockheed Martin to some dipshit who's trying to blow their arm off to get a Camaro on loan? You know,
yeah.
by being stationed at the DMZ. Sorry, I saw joint security area recently, and that's just what's in my brain now.
Look, it's
Yeah,
fine.
Make love, not war.
I remember seeing a report. They forget the guy. There's a Radio War Nerd episode where they actually interview the guy, and he's just talking about when 1914 happened, when Russia attacked Crimea. He was in a room full of like weapons company lobbyists, and they'd been going through a bit of a dip because there was not much conflict going on. You know, Iraq and Afghanistan was getting wound down, and they were like full on like popping champagne. They're just so excited to have an excuse to, you know, print more money selling weapons to the military industrial.
Yeah.
Well, I guess being a part of the military industrial complex.
Evil. But it's
It's
also
just-
like the Imperial Construction Complex, right? So
Yeah.
something we said really early on was that this is also about the construction contracts for like BlackRock and you know, in Iraq it was Halliburton or Afghanistan. They go and pick these up, and they're just going to roll into Ukraine when all the dust is settled and all the Ukrainians are dead, and then start siphoning off government funds to begin building private infrastructure.
Yeah, Kyle, I think you've talked about this before, but if you could remind people of what was happening, I'm not sure how long ago. It might have been 2 years ago now, maybe a little longer, or maybe a little less, where they were being explicit about this. Was it Zelensky who's being explicit about this? They were essentially going to do the 90s Russian kind of quote unquote shock therapy, where they sold off the state for parts and ripped out the copper wiring to then hand it over to private interests. And those could be foreign interests, they could be local interests, create their own kind of oligarchs, the people that, you know, the liberals in the United States sort of decry as having, you know, ruling and having sway in Russia, which the US created, by the way, when the Soviet Union was dismantled, and do that in Ukraine. Right? Like this was a crushing of labor power in Ukraine, and they were going to use the war as an excuse to do so.
Yeah. And as with so many things, and as with Boris Johnson just recently, there's always someone who just can't help themselves and lets it slip. And often in the sense that they want to be celebrated for it. So I think in that case as well, they're talking about the great future of Ukraine kind of stuff, right? Like not gonna go well. Continues to not go well. As horrific. I think last time I checked in, and that was months ago now, there's something like 300,000 injured Ukrainians. You know, like you do not recover from that. Yeah, it's just fucking tragic. Simone, what do you hate? What is your single
Black
item of
Friday.
hate? Yeah.
Black Friday.
Yeah.
You know, it's the only, if you look on Wikipedia for the page for it, it's like, because it does the usual thing for holidays where it's like, you know, Christmas reason, like, you know, religious sort of celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. And then like, if you look at any other holiday, it's like that. If you look at Black Friday, it's like reason for like the religion for celebrating capitalism, you know, just this fact that as our culture God, I'm not gonna make like a cogent or a good cultural critique, so you can probably skip past 5 minutes of this because I'm too just mad about it to be articulate about it. To do some Frankfurt School like Adorno Horkheimer stuff on this, but the fact that you have this kind of superstructural cultural almost worship of money growing out of the fact that companies need to pump up their stocks a little bit at the end of the fourth quarter. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? What is the point of any of this? Like the fact that that people get injured in the United States. I don't know if that started happening here. I think our Black Friday sales kind of suck too much here for that to be a thing. And also, that's another reason to hate it. The Black Friday sales here, not really that good. Go to PB Tech, it's like an okay deal, but it's not like in the US. And so, if you have people who are being killed and injured in human crushes, in the United States, a country where they don't have healthcare, and there's great risk to people, all over sacrificing people to this altar of Baal or Moloch, or whatever you want to say, like just money, just making a certain few people at the top ever richer. It just bothers me a lot that this creates a kind of cultural significance and that this is a rallying point. And it's almost, well, I won't say it's the polar opposite because, Thanksgiving is to do with the creation of the American state, and therefore it's very much to do with genocide.
Yeah,
and
Genocide Day.
Imposing a sort of new mode of production, i.e. capitalism, on that continent. But ostensibly Thanksgiving is about like family and collectivism, right? Like that's kind of what they say it's about. It's supposed to be about now. And yet immediately afterwards you have people like abandoning their families to then go and wait in line to punch somebody else like it's a heavy metal circle pit or something like that to get a television for an extra $200 off. Just shameful stuff.
It's one of the things that's like fascinating when you like look back at classical cultures or medieval cultures and you're like, why were people so willing to like pay all this money for indulgences? Or why would a farmer sacrifice their like best cow to the gods? And then we like look at today and the excesses and sacrifices we go through to make sure that our like living gods live in unimaginable luxury. And like
the sun is
like
real. Stocks are not real. I get human sacrifice to the sun.
But it's like you look at like the prophets are like what, like influencers and shit. And it's like this is the life you will have if you follow the tenets of the dollar.
You're a teacher. You must know this, right? But like kids these days don't want to be professions. They want to be YouTube famous.
I guess it depends on the kids. A lot of the kids will usually have aspirations to be like vet, doctor, and that. But maybe we've just got like a really good pathways program at my school.
I think you're a really good teacher.
I'm not a good teacher. I'm a trash teacher.
I think that's what the younger ones as well. Teenagers probably realize that it's not a viable option, but
yeah,
I don't know how much this is a scare, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe segueing a little bit into like Australia banning social media for under 16s, but a lot of them already have like YouTube channels and stuff that they've started as like a fun joke and that kind of thing. And it's like it's kind of a funny joke because it's like, okay, well, we're gonna save a clip of this and then show it at your like year 13 leaving do. But it's also like these kids are putting themselves out on the internet before they fully have an idea of the implications of what impact that could have on their lives and the perception of them online. And just like the fact that there's mega fucking creeps online as well that they're being exposed to.
David Seymour.
Yeah. Don't Snapchat that politician.
Good. I think it's a worthy item of hate, Simone, and topical and chronological.
Oh, we're going to talk about Seymour's love life like every other media outlet this week?
No.
Well, what?
No. What is there to talk about?
No. Stop. Ginny, what have you hated this week?
Oh my God. Sorry. I guess I'm hating now all these articles about the love life. No, I'm
No.
not.
We're not going there.
I don't care about that. This week, not just because my job has been so, I hate management consultants this week. I just think it's bad. I hate outsourcing stuff that could be done locally to other people, outside of your company. And I say this because there's just been like, obviously, I hate reading the Herald, but sometimes, the Herald gets delivered to my work, and so it's just there. So I just see it, it exists ambiently around me. Um, and it's really disheartening seeing news about all the job cuts in various public departments that we have contracted work for. So they are still paying companies like the one that I work for to consult for them while they cut like 1,000+ jobs for people who are in, I would call it, and I would say really integral roles, right? Like people facing roles with Health New Zealand, for example. Like I think this week they confirmed they were going to cut 1,500 more roles in Health New Zealand, who are an active client of multiple consultancies with contracts open. So obviously, it's like I know it's not as easy as money taken from somewhere goes to other department, but sometimes it kind of is in terms of the scale of the money that's being spent on outsiders. And so to me, it's like untenable and untenable and shitty that we're cutting these many roles specifically as well. I think the PSA said that most of these roles are around to do with roles held by currently advisors who are helping people to quit smoking and dedicated Māori and Pacifica public health advisors, which Carl just made a face here, obviously goes hand in hand with the portfolio that I'm working on, aka for smoking for cigarette brands. So it's just shit. It's shit. I think it's all just shit, and it's so bad. And it's so annoying to see, I guess, like the thing that pays my bills do like terrible evil, or what I feel is like evil to people that need it the most, like vulnerable people. And of course, like I feel like the discourse around the cuts has been really, really focused on what the union has said about it versus what Health NZ has said about it, which I think completely misses the point. Like there are a few RNZ articles about it and stuff once being like, oh, but like the union said this and PSA said this, and like that's a problem because people aren't, on the level about what's going on. And I just feel like no one really has focused on just how bad the numbers look. That they're cutting over 1,000 roles just from the data and digital group, and they're cutting over 47% of that workforce. So like it's not just attacking frontline people, it's like infrastructure at Health New Zealand too that's gonna go because of this.
I think across New Zealand, there's something like 26,000 more unemployed at Christmas this year than last year,
Yeah,
which is just horrific.
just sad. Just fucking terrible. Like, and also now we have whooping cough apparently in the country.
Yeah, it's an
Like we have
epidemic
that
here.
now. And it just drives me insane that now our National Public Health Service would cut all of these jobs in the middle of a whooping cough epidemic, COVID coming back in a bunch of places, people getting sick, and also just like all these specific, I would say, dedicated Māori and Pacific health advisors, just getting rid of them. Like, why? You
This
know?
Black Friday, we're bringing back the Black Plague.
Like, why? And how can Te Whatu Ora still be spending more than they have in their budget and cutting all these jobs? Like, just hire fewer of me, you know? Like, I'll take the bullet, hire fewer of me. I don't give a shit. Like,
I have
don't
fewer
hire.
Lester Levi's, right? Like it just we've had a lot of comms about from Shane Reddy in particular saying, "Oh, I don't overtly want privatization. I just want to work with private healthcare providers more." And Lester Levi standing up and like kind of giving his vision of private healthcare and shit. And you're just like, they're just doing it in plain sight. And once again, legacy media is just, oh no, it couldn't possibly be doing that. It couldn't possibly be what's happening, while like just jacking themselves off furiously over the potential for complete subsumation of the state by capital. Like it's just getting worse and worse out there. I'm so frustrated with the way that this very evidential stuff is being covered. You don't even need to do journalism at this point. They're saying everything out loud. Like, and this goes all the way from the genocide in Palestine all the way to domestic policy. Like the capital class, the ruling classes, the oligarchs, they're just saying it out loud now. Elon Musk was on Twitter the other day, saying he's going to just start arresting elected officials. This guy's just a billionaire. He's not even part of the administration yet. And like they're saying they're going to be fascists, everybody. Everyone is. They're saying they're going to just destroy the public infrastructure and public services. They're saying it out of their mouths. And somehow, oh no, we have to look at both sides of this. Like it's really, really infuriating.
Side
There
note,
was
but
actually
advertising cigarettes is the funniest gig in the world. It's a product that sells itself. You're like, oh, I'm doing such a good job. People are smoking a thing they are dependent upon chemically.
It's because too many people are vaping, so now we have to go actually in dairies with someone who works for the cigarette brand and hand cigarettes out to people, by the way. Because people are vaping instead now. It's crazy. We don't have great flavored cigarettes yet, so one
They
day
got
we're
to get
working
onto
on
that.
it.
They
We're
got to get the Hubba
brainstorming some
Bubba cigarette.
ideas.
ages ago I had like a flavored like cigarillo, which was amazing. It was like a cigar with a filter, and it was
Okay, hang on,
flavored.
I'm writing this down. Wait, what was the
Yeah,
what was the flavor?
I can't remember. I just remember being like, "Damn, it's not tobacco."
Got
But
it.
something related to infrastructure collapse I wanted to bring up was the RNZ piece published yesterday, where the Treasury has warned the government about overspend and planning on major infrastructure projects. Um, and I mean, I haven't dug into the documents, but it looks like Treasury is basically like, hey, Treasury told Minister of Infrastructure Chris Bishop that many agencies lack understanding about planning large infrastructure projects, and this was exacerbated by skills and capability gaps and poor asset planning and management. And then, like, I mean, I haven't. Basically, it just looks like the response to that is, okay, we've got to cut more from those ministries. Like, we they for some reason they mentioned the Dunedin hospital and like, oh, this is probably going to cause problems for the rest of the country if we like let it go through. And it's just like the boiled down, the response is like, oh, okay, we're going to have to cut things to like fix this. There's no plan to like actually address the issue. It's just like we're going to stop the spending and that will fix the problem of overspending, completely ignoring the like knock-on effects of that.
Yeah, it's frightful. And it's happening at greater and greater speed. And no one is like doing anything about it. Thanks, Labour. Doing a good job in opposition over there. Well, no one is really.
It's
Um,
nearly halfway through the term, and Chris Hipkins is still there.
Chris Hipkins has said he believes he can lead Labour to victory in 2026, despite being at the helm when Labour's party vote share plummeted from 50% to 26.9% at the last election. That's
Get a
how this is going to be
life.
framed
Get a
up.
job. Go
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
Sorry.
What a plucky young guy. I'm sure he can fight his corner as the underdog.
Oh, he wants it
Uh,
so bad. He's imagined himself
he's
in
already been
that.
prime minister. You don't need to do it
Oh,
again, bro. My most hated thing. I've got two most hated things because I'm a greedy guy. The first one is Keir Starmer standing up and saying that the Tories liberalized immigration, that they made an experiment of the UK and went too far and essentially made the UK an experiment in open borders. And this is Fortress Britain shit. Like this is like outright fash. It is one of the this is so much worse than Stop the Boats. Like I was really shocked. I think the Australian Labor Party has always kind of been like that as well. This is where a lot of this stuff originates. I'm really interested to see how countries like Canada and ourselves, in little old New Zealand, pick up that narrative as well. I mention it now and then, but under the last Labour government, Michael Wood, who was ostensibly one of the more left-wing MPs, was the minister who introduced the mass arrivals bill.
mm.
And yeah, it's just can we? You genuinely don't need to do this. Like, and I don't know what the answer to that is because again, they're just doing this stuff regardless, right? They're all marching on until something really gets in their way.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in person, but this is also, in some ways, a kind of framing which is accepted by the Green Party of of New Zealand, because the Greens are the ones who looked at our refugee quota and said, "Oh, we should double it to what was it, like 1,000 or something a year? Essentially nothing, right?" And that sort of accepts the framing that there ought to be a quota of an acceptable number of people who you can accept political asylum from, which is not the proper position, right? The world and its crises don't respect an arbitrary number that you have created. If the crises increase, you simply take in more people just to try to kind of bring people back. Imagine that the Holocaust is happening, which I know for some people it's hard to imagine that that sort of thing still exists. So try to do the one thing that's acceptable that gets taught in schools as like the bad thing in history, just, to try to make it easier for your brain,
I
right?
mean, something like this is happening right now.
Yes, I do want to say, but for a lot of people, they get taught like the villain of history was Hitler, and like the Holocaust was the bad thing that happened, and like terrible way of understanding history. But
If it's any consolation, just quick interjection. Sometimes these days that not even that is happening. You just get North Korea as the big bad evil.
oh, great. Well, I'm feeling so jubilant about the future of New Zealand's youth and the education system. But try to think about that. Like the Holocaust is happening, and it's the Green Party that's there's a huge influx of people who are in Eastern Europe, who are Jewish, Romani, anybody else who needs to flee, right, or within Germany itself, or from Central Europe. And New Zealand says, "Oh, sorry, we're going to cut the number off at 1,000. We're not taking on any more." And there are people who inevitably die because of that. Now, there are historians who are going to say that these things did happen. Let's leave that there. But like, try to imagine the outrage that you would feel about that, knowing that. And then understanding now that the climate disaster is going to affect 8+ billion people on this earth, slowly, bit by bit, but it'll start in our backyard, right? This is a Pacific nation. It'll start in the Pacific for our neighboring region, for people who need to flee for that reason. There are a whole lot of people who need to seek asylum for a lot of other reasons, but that's going to be another crisis which compounds a kind of polycrisis, right? That compounds everything else. And our Green Party, our supposed left-wing, extremist outliers have said, 500 to 1,000 people. I think I think we should put a number on this. I really think that 1,001, or whatever the exact number is. No, not you. You have to die in the ocean. But everybody else, yeah. Like this really paltry, measly number. I just invented a new word, crazy like that. And saying, yeah, that to me is an untenable position because it accepts the framing that there is a number of people who should be that accepting kind of refugee crisis is something which should be instrumentalized, that people are turned into numbers, right? And accepting that framing and not saying, no, we have obligations under international law that if people seek refuge and they seek asylum and they have a legitimate reason to do so, they must be accepted by us, right? That is the position. That our Green Party doesn't accept that and accepts the same framing as fascists. They just say, we should be a little lighter and softer about that. What if we were like 85% Hitler? What if that was okay?
But
I don't want to change the thing that I hate this week, but I am
struggle
going
of
to put the Green
centrism,
Party on notice.
it's one of those things as well, and this is what I'm always thinking about when parties, especially of the ostensible left, dip into austerity narratives, because often these arguments are paired with, oh, we just don't have the houses, we don't have the infrastructure to take on so many immigrants and or refugees and asylum seekers. And you're like, no, you're a bigot, and you're using the framing of neoliberal austerity to justify your bigotry. And that's really all it comes down to. Like we can solve a lot of these issues really quickly, and especially if we, fairly tax the capital class at a minimum. And there are much more radical things we could do that would make it even easier.
I'll just quickly on the migration refugee thing, like, because there's arguments about like, oh, there's a capacity to take in people, but we have an example of a country that went from 0 people to like 100 million, the United States, over 100 years, from like 1700 to 1800 to 1900. And they went through the largest and most sustained economic growth in history, going from a place where the indigenous lived quite happily and free from interference, well, apart from each other, but we don't need to get into that, to like this capitalist monstrosity that is an undisputed world singular superpower. Like the idea that more people more people multiplies your resources. People are a multiplier because each person can work and that work adds value to every other person.
What if they're a different color than
Um,
you, though? Have you thought about that?
oh, damn. Okay, I didn't think about the different color
Back to the
thing.
drawing board, bitch. Back to the
Yeah,
drawing board.
fuck. Okay, is there a way we could just get pure
We've got like a
whites?
color wheel, and then we're just drawing a circle around a certain amount.
Yeah. Well, well, no. Like you see it with like Israel, right? Where reputedly, maybe cut this if this is fake, but they were like importing non-Jewish Russians to like boost the numbers a little bit.
God
Um,
damn.
God.
that could be libelous, but I've seen that posted multiple times.
Here's one thing that
Fact
they
check,
actually
please.
were doing that I can verify is that they were sterilizing Ethiopian Jews. So ostensibly, Israel is a home for quote unquote all Jewish people. It's the Jewish homeland. And yet, if you're the wrong type of Jew, guess what? If you're the wrong color, you can be forcibly sterilized. Because it's not about that, because it is a European settler colonial project in the mold of the 19th century scramble for Africa. It is a Rhodesia in the Middle East.
Allegedly.
Allegedly what? No, they were doing this. This is verifiable news.
My second hated thing,
Oh.
being the greedy podcast host that I am, is this new doxing offenses law in Australia, which is just one of the most authoritarian under the guise of, social justice piece of legislation I've ever seen. It makes it an offense to publish materials that identify individuals. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's good. We don't want people running around and like giving out people's like addresses and numbers, just normal members of the public, really bad.
Yeah.
But it applies to everyone. And it includes things like publishing that person's name. That's on the list of things you're not allowed to do under this
Nice.
legislation.
Nice.
And there's this really narrow carve out for registered journalists and news organizations that does not include independent media. Just absolutely wild. Like the entire intent of this is to destroy non-official media channels. No one's got anything to say about it. Everyone's
This is the first
speechless.
I'm hearing about it, so I'm just still.
I was just typing to somebody else on Discord because I'm great about podcasting like that.
Wow, Simone, log in.
log as if that's the reason why you don't have your video on, so that people can't prove you're not logged in. Come on.
I am logged in. I just have an ugly face. Bet you didn't see that one coming. No.
But we've seen this
Mitch,
happening.
Mitch, you do the same thing, but just input the words like pretty or something like that over the
But like a
top.
really like in like Siri
Handsome.
voice, like I have a pretty face. No, okay, so
I have a handsome
I
visage.
just like pull up a bunch of legal opinions on it because obviously stupid brain.
A lot of legal
looks-
opinions on your face.
No, it looks like there are plenty of those. People get into me for free all the time. No, it
Oh
looks
my God.
Though, it looks though that like you could potentially also be caught by this if you were engaging in that private disclosure in a situation where I guess that person who was quote unquote, I guess, gonna dox you was there. So like if they were in a group with other people and they said something about your name or whatever, that could still count. Like it's not been defined very clearly.
Yeah, it's really wide net. And it really echoes some of the stuff that's coming out of places like the UK, where they're starting to use like terrorism laws against independent journalists who are reporting on Gaza and on Palestine. Just incredible abuses of power with really vague but easily utilized police powers to do a fascism, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of cybercrime as well, not just because I used to read about a lot of cybercrime legislation. Um, but I think the issue with cybercrime practically as well is determining how jurisdiction works with the quote unquote act or the act that's perpetrated. Because if someone uses a VPN, does the act occur in the country that has this doxing law or not? Like if the victim is from Australia, that doesn't necessarily mean the crime has occurred in Australia. Can someone be penalized for this crime under Australian jurisdiction? It's still kind of uncertain. So it just really seems like it's not really meant to target people that are, I don't know if they even exist, like roving internet criminals. Like it's just not going to really do anything for someone who is a professional hacker or someone in the business of actually doxing someone. This is, as I think, as you correctly point out, I think this really threatens only people who are in the business of unearthing this information, right, and publicizing it. This is not a law to really, really protect people from having the information leaked or to stop them from getting swatted, or to stop them from getting doxed without cause. I think it is correct, as you say, Kyle, a law which is aimed specifically at reporting and transparency around reporting around crimes like this. So this sucks dick and balls, real bad.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see whatever the New Zealand version of this is. Maybe they'll spread the gang patches legislation
Oh
to target
God, fuck's sake.
our 1 of 200 brand. I don't know.
Maybe before details of a respected former political figure are released, they'll amend laws to prevent independent outlets from reporting on the names of people in public life or something. I don't know.
Amazing.
Let's switch tracks.
Yeah.
Is there anything good out there this week? What's good out there, folks? What's
Arcane
happening?
ended. That's over now, so that's good. I'm kidding. I don't want to start shit about Arcane.
No, you started shit. It's not a joke.
It's not a joke. The show's over now, so Dash, Pmax and I can rest in peace. Like we were being tormented for weeks while that show was still active, and now we're free. We're freed ourselves.
Yeah. Each weekend was the weirdest cliffhanger of, but what are they gonna do next? Like, just so perplexing. And to be free of that burden, is great. I know
Am I
what
the only
freedom
person on
feels
here
like.
who didn't watch the League of Legends thing?
I stopped watching it immediately because it was so garbage.
Yeah, we would both
Sorry
recommend.
everyone. Sorry everyone who liked it.
We would
Don't-
recommend
Hashtag
that you don't
sorry.
watch it.
Hashtag Hulk to it.
Look,
Yeah, don't
it
watch
was really pretty. Not much beyond that, in my opinion. As for some of my personal good, I have secured a place in Hamilton. It's
Nice.
very personal. This isn't
secured.
this isn't global
Sorry, you're
news.
going to get arrested for
Um,
doxing yourself under
Enemy
the new Australian
spotted.
laws. Yeah.
Yeah. Tactical nuke incoming. But I think maybe to turn this into a bit of commentary, I think it's the right choice because the way I talk about when I mention moving to Hamilton, people give me the same look they used to give me when I mentioned I was working at the school I'm working at. So that just tells me that Hamilton is pure and good and full of love,
No.
Wow.
essentially.
No. No.
Wonderful.
No.
Wonderful. Has anyone got any politics news that has been a ray of hope for them rather than pop culture or personal news?
Good politics news? Oh fuck. Oh maybe. Yes, that lawyer, Riana Te Ngahue, who has been making TikToks of people who don't really understand the treaty. She was, I think her TikToks went viral recently. And she obviously made a whole bunch about the treaty bill that was going on. And she had a public disagreement. Well, I say public, in that David Seymour released a video on the ACT Party social media page disagreeing with her. And she hit back. And I think just in terms of like good news, I think it's really good that that it looks like the public sentiment is still on our side. And by our side, I mean side people with common sense and who don't hate other people. And it's really heartening to see that she has gone viral and that most of the comments that I've seen on her videos are people agreeing with her and telling David Seymour to go fuck himself. So I think that makes me feel good about the progress or lack thereof of the treaty principles bill. Like, I don't think it was what's the word? I don't think it didn't really have any, I would say, like legal legs to stand on to go forward as such. But I'm so glad that the sentiment around it is the same and that the public have stood up time and time again that they don't want it, they don't want to be a part of it. And that's just giving me more confidence in it not going ahead, which is nice. It feels good. The protests I feel were really effective. People that did the Hikoi demonstration were beyond like just some gorgeous, gorgeous, heartwarming stuff, everyone coming together. So I think that's been like a feel good moment for me. Is like the left can do stuff. Like we can get shit done. Like when we have great local indigenous organizers, shit absolutely fucking gets done. So that's been real nice to think about.
You don't have to tell Seymour to go fuck himself. We got his love life in there, baby. Yeah.
No, I don't want to think about that.
I
And
guess
you would think neither would the average Women's Weekly reader, and yet.
yeah, it's all something we're not going to talk about any further. My favorite thing for the week is Winston Peters kind of starting to hint that he might bring the government down. Could it happen? Saying that his
She's
prime
so
minister
mysterious.
his prime minister is struggling. Luxon is struggling with being prime minister and with leading this coalition. We know he has bad blood with Seymour. We know maybe some really interesting news is about to come out about the ACT Party by the
He
end
had a
of the
pretty good bit
year.
about that. What was it? There'll be three sounds, David. Me hitting you hitting the floor, and the ambulance hitting 100.
Yeah.
There'll be three. No, yeah, there'll be three
Fuck
hits. There'll be three
yeah.
hits.
Yeah, that's right. It's so
Yeah.
good.
That's the one, baby.
Yeah. So
Well-
what do you think? Is this, it's been pitched since the beginning. Like this is not going to even be a one-term government, right? Like this has been the cope, or the hopium of a lot of people on the center left more. It's been funny for me personally, as someone further to the left. Do we think that Winston Peters is really that rabid that he would lose the deputy prime ministership and just bring the government down on that basis?
I think he's got it in him. My personal read on the situation, so probably wrong, is he's already gotten what he wanted out of this prime ministership in terms of the legislative change. A lot of like the anti-trans stuff, I think maybe from his perspective, although then again, maybe he's more there's no non-ableist way to put this, along than I thought, and he actually does fully buy into like all the anti-trans stuff. I think it mostly was just, okay, this is what our voter base is rabid for. We'll chuck that in. I think it's the economic changes and all the stuff that Shane Jones has been gloating about. They've got that. Personally, I think Winston Peters wants to see David Seymour eat shit
Oh, hell
more
yeah,
than
definitely.
any other thing
Totally.
that he potentially has. I guess the hard part will be convincing his MPs to get on board with it, because if there's another election, they're out of a job. So maybe if they've secured all those board positions and so forth on those mining companies, and is it Casey Costello? Is she the one who's like basically working with the tobacco industry? Or am I getting them mixed up?
Yeah, no, she's the one. That's her.
It's actually Elvis
You know-
Costello, but go off.
I will not hear a
what's her
bad
name?
word against my boy Elvis.
Oh my
And then
God.
there was the one who wants to beat kids. Like kids have already been beaten, so
Yeah.
that's ticked off.
Is this not all of them?
But like, yeah, I feel like if he can get the caucus on board and just be like, we'll make sure to get a close up of his face when we shatter Parliament. Like, it's got to be satisfying to like have that power and to arrange that deal where it's like, oh, we'll take turns being deputy prime minister, and then just snatch it away from him.
Oh, totally.
That
Yeah.
has to be such a sweet thought. And like,
Yeah.
there's nothing Seymour would be able to do about it, because he'd be like, whoa, whoa, he broke the rules and stuff, and that just makes him look more pathetic. And
I like that you do the
such a little
Jason
bitch.
Gunn voice for that. No, he broke the rules.
I love that. No, you're so right though. I think Winston is petty enough and has a long-reaching memory enough to want to do this. And he's getting old enough that it's gonna seem it's gonna seem more and more viable, because he's going to have stopped at this point in his seniority. I don't want to call him old flat off the bat, but I feel like when you get a little bit older, you start like forgetting what consequences are. Like you just say really crazy shit at Thanksgiving or whatever, or you just do whatever you want. You
Yeah.
say almost your
Me in my
kids.
30s.
That age, he's hit that point. And
The
I
thing
think
is,
that's such a reality. Yeah.
I think what the opposition needs to do right now is arrange a backroom meeting with Winston Peters, tell
Yes.
him that the dogs will be safe, we're not going to touch racing, and
Mhm.
then just let it rip. Just let it rip. Because I think who knows what's going to happen over the next 2 years. If the global financial situation stabilizes and the rising tide lifts all boats, we could potentially see a second term of National enact, just because, like, imagine if the cost of living crisis got a little bit better over the next couple of years. It's going to feel good, even if it's not the direct result of any policy of this parliament. And indeed, a lot of the stuff they've done has probably made that recovery a lot harder. But if they get scuppered early, before they've had the opportunity to benefit from that, and they fall apart into the coalition of chaos that everyone's been calling them, like, hopefully, like, I don't know, someone spikes Chippy's drink with some kind of like World War II level stimulant to actually get him aggressive. We could see we could see a centre left coalition in Parliament again. And as much as I hate them, and as much as I don't want to just put up with another 3 years of nothing, that's better than 3 years of destruction.
A rising uncle lifts all nephews. Is the way that I think about Winston Peters. Look, he plays. You're playing 4D chess. He's playing 5D chess, and you're a dog.
He's not playing chess. He's just sitting in a bedpan in the rest home. Like, this is all beyond him. Like, honestly,
I think
he doesn't give a shit anymore.
Winston Peters has been around the block so much. I think that this is just instinct for him to lay enough breadcrumbs on any position that he can then pivot. So, for example, if it's looking like Labour is going to win, but they need New Zealand first, he can say, look, I was in that coalition and I told you that it was failing from the start. This is why you need to vote for New Zealand first. I'm the maverick. I'll keep Chris Hipkins in line. I'll inspect the genitals of your trans children. Like, this is what he does, right? He always places enough breadcrumbs for any position that he can then turn around. He's the guy who is there when the public health measures during the early part of the COVID pandemic were instituted and saved a whole lot of people's lives. And then he saw that there was enough of a vote of people whose brains had been cooked by the 5G Bill Gates ray and said, you know what? I'm going to pretend like I was against this. And we need an inquiry into COVID. Like, it's that guy. He knows how to play. He knows how to play the media. He knows how to play everything. I'm not saying, I mean, as much as I said that at the start, that he was a grandmaster genius, it's more just like, I think that when you've been around for long enough, playing the media in New Zealand like a fiddle has got to be like a children's kind of xylophone toy. You know, like, it's not hard, I'm sure, if you spend enough time. They're all the same, and they're all predictable.
And all getting worse.
And they're all getting worse. Oh, I hate having to see some of them on Twitter sometimes. We're only allowed one hate. Any
other things that people are looking to with optimism this week?
Yeah, my like, and this is going to shock everybody, is Black Friday. I love a sale. I love a deal.
This sucks.
Love a good.
I'm going to train to your home and bash you.
That's doxing, Ginny.
I am the Winston Peters of this podcast. I've always been in favor of Black Friday. You know, you can't prove otherwise. I love a good. I'm a deals girly. I love that. Love a good Briscoe's 60% off, maybe even 70% on a good day. Love to get a Simon Gold ceramic pan and then it shatters within like 2 weeks, and then you have to take it back and it's worth $180 for some reason that's unknown to God or man. Yeah. Love a good deal.
I'm convinced.
Wow.
Build a new PC. Come on. You want to do it. You know you want to do it. It's like Legos, but you can kill yourself with electricity. You want to go to PB Tech and spend $700 on a new like Core i9.
Wow.
We don't even get advertising money for this.
We really
Yeah,
don't.
you know what? AMD, we're not getting paid by Intel. If they won't cough up, we're gonna say you should go for a Ryzen.
Pmax, anything from you?
Oh, just like last minute positives. The great state of China continues to make great leaps and bounds in infrastructure and policy, and we are living in the Chinese century. We just don't know it yet, and that brings me joy.
I'm looking forward to being ruled by Ginny.
I think you are right, Pmax, and I think it's like why a lot of the propaganda that we're seeing and the hawkishness from the West, particularly NATO and the US, is ramping up in such ridiculous ways. Good to know that the world is in safe hands. That's been another episode. That's been a current events. I think we've got a midweek coming up this week as well, so keep an eye out for that. I'll put everyone's handles into the summary so we don't need to do the plugs unless anyone's got a specific project or piece of content that they want to plug right now.
No.
Coming soon, maybe 1 of 200 mascot.
Maybe. All right.
Maybe.
We'll see how it goes. Thanks so much to my co-hosts. Thank you, Simone, Pmax, and Ginny, for another fantastic current events episode. Thank you to the audience. I really hate saying like, share, subscribe, but we needs must. Needs
I
must.
love being gay online. Come be gay with me online.
You heard it here first. You can find
This is not the first place you heard that.
the Twitter link in the summary. We'll be back next week with more current events as we move swiftly towards the holiday season. See you then.
If artificers are denied, living a pointless life, but learning all your lessons. Fucking politics, there's no distinction. The road's apart now. It's paid with good intentions, and I'll admit that I'm at a loss for what to say when the criticism cost me ought to stay. 'Cause I live amongst the people every day in this vindictive, forgetful fucking rain.